55 years since England last reached a major final. Gareth Southgate will bring England back here on Sunday to face Italy in the final of the European Championships. Open your eyes as wide as the Wembley arch. Take in every single second. Take note of where you are, who you're with. Trust me, this is not something that happens nearly often enough.
You know, I thought about whether I would ever feel this moment. I thought it's too dreamy. It's not going to happen. I said again and again and again to friends, it's just not going to happen in my lifetime. After Germany, I thought that was it. I thought with that team, that was really just a sign that England, there was a curse, or there was just a mentality problem, and that our league would never be able to be reconciled with the national team. And now that it's happened, it's not how perhaps, you know, you would feel. Does it feel good? It feels so good perhaps that you've forgotten how to feel good. But it's unreal. I'm sure that's something you've heard a lot today. I don't think it comes home until you look at the TV and you see the pictures around the country. Being at Wembley last night was electrifying. Some people said it wasn't as good an atmosphere as it was against Germany. I don't know. I felt like pulses of electricity going through me. But at the end of it, the exhaustion, I mean, I think I've caught a bug. Thank you, England. But hey, I'll catch a bug for this. I just, it's not how I imagined. It sort of hit subconsciously. I think maybe it's different because, you know, I've been through so much pain with it that the antidote is, it doesn't feel like it perhaps it should feel, but it still feels amazing. The only person I could think of who could understand better than anybody else, I'm going to bring him in because he's been to more England tournaments and more England games than anyone else I know, and he will be feeling this more than anybody. And that's our great friend Carlos, who is more important to me today than any, you know, celebrity I might have on, or anybody who you might have heard of, who also are great and who also have been through it all. But this is a personal friend as well. So let's roll these credits and bring in the great Carlos.
Where's your famous? Where's your famous? Where's your famous atmosphere? Where's your
Carlos, let's see a beaming smile when he
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing?
I see the words Carlos. There, I see the man Carlos.
How we doing?
I mean, I was just introducing and I was saying that it's not how I thought I would feel. I've envisioned the moment in a sort of it's never going to come way. And then when it finally comes, I think so much build up to it inside. It's not anticlimactic. It's just weird. It's sort of, it is an amazing feeling, but it's not how I imagined. So I got to turn it over to you. I just introduced you as somebody, the most important person I could really speak to, because you're the person who I've known who's been doing this longer than anybody else I've known. You've been to more tournaments and more England games and sacrificed probably more than anybody else. I mean, our friend Jukesy, but he doesn't like to get onto Zoom. But you have gone even further back, so I just, you had to be really the first person on that. So, I mean, how do I start? How are you feeling? First of all,
yeah, it's a difficult one, Lee. I think you're absolutely right. It's not an anticlimax, but it's certainly not how I thought it would feel. I was explaining to my two lads today, their lives are just beginning, and they've had this amazing experience of seeing us get to a final. I've waited 32 long years of following England for this. A lot of pain, a lot of ups and downs, mainly downs along the way. And you kind of think after a night like last night, you're going to be absolutely brimming with elation. You're not going to be able to contain your emotions in any way. But I just stood there at the end, just remarkably calm, just somehow just sink in. And I'm still not sure whether it has.
No, perhaps that's what it is. Perhaps we're being cautious just to make sure, that we don't wake up. So I was saying to somebody the other day, the way to tell that it's not a dream, apparently, is if you look at something in a dream, then look away and look back. It'll never be the same thing again. So just test that if you do have any doubts, mate, that that it actually happened. What a night of drama. I mean, I was certainly feeling it during the game. It was tough at times, and both of us said that if we took Denmark lightly, we were going to be in for a rude awakening. And my God, did they put up a fight?
Yes, I mean, not only did they put up a fight, but for periods they did take the game to us as well. A lot of respect for Denmark. They're a nice team. They try and play good football, but extremely high level opposition, but happy to risk things. Engage us in a game. They were prepared to risk losing. And I actually said to Dukesy a couple of times during the game, they want to get this over with within 90 minutes. They want to go and win this. That they must have had a talk and thought the longer this goes on, the less chance there is for them. So fair play to them. A lot of respect for them.
Absolutely. And as far as England concerned, one of the things that we had been talked about and concerned about was England had not yet been in a position where they would have to come back, where they would suffer a setback. And we didn't know how they would react. That would have been a test of their mettle. And so when Denmark scored, there was that sort of sinking feeling in your stomach, now is that time to see if they can do it. And do it, they were able to. I mean, how did you see England's reaction to that?
Yeah, again, it was something that I mentioned at the time when I was watching the game with Dukes and said, look, this is our test now. We've not fallen behind before. But as we spoke about earlier, Lee, it's about psychological, mental toughness, isn't it? How do you respond in those situations? How do you react to adversity? And I thought we were excellent, and also we were able to get the goal back fairly quickly, which I think made a big difference. It didn't get the crowd on our backs at all, that the crowd stayed with them, which, maybe could have gone the other way if it had gone, a long time.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it was 39 minutes, wasn't it? I mean, you wonder if it had gone into half time with them leading, it would have been a lot more pressure coming out. But there was Kane and Saka linked up. I mean, Kane was deep, but the pass to Saka was phenomenal. And it was an own goal, but you sort of felt that Sterling was beginning to just be too much of a handful for them. And his presence there was little that Kriya, their captain, could do really. And it was sort of, I mean, you can never say anything was inevitable, but we'd been knocking on the door by that point, haven't we?
We had. It was a matter of time. That they couldn't handle Sterling's acceleration and incisiveness into the box and being prepared to draw, commit, take people on. And like you say, eventually when the ball came across, Cher didn't have an awful lot of choice. He had to get something on it. And for him it went in the net. But if he hadn't got something on it, Sterling would have tapped it in. So it was it was it was a moment that was that had been coming for a while, and we were worthy winners on balance.
I mean, and then of course we the second half we just hammered away, and they resisted and they resisted. I mean, I have to give their defenders some credit. They made some strange substitutions. What a lot of people were saying on the TV analysis was that they weren't sure why he made, like, I think he made 3 substitutions, which disrupted their tempo a bit, their rhythm. But it took extra time. And even then I was thinking, God, I mean, Schmeichel will really fancy penalties here. You could see they were quite happy to play for that. And then the penalty, what a moment of drama, both the giving of it. I mean, this passage of play is one that's going to be talked about for years, because you have the controversy of the penalty, you have the penalty itself, which was just nerve-wracking, and then you have these things around the second ball on the pitch, the laser pointer, which was disgraceful, really. I mean, first of all, I mean, was it a penalty to you?
Yeah, it was a penalty. Yeah, he's caught his trailing leg, hasn't he? And the way that I always look at penalties like that, I always think to myself, how would I feel if I was the opposition? And I know that they did argue about it a little bit. They perhaps didn't see the contact as great as it actually was, but the contact, a combination of the contact and his acceleration and pace, meant that he was going to go over. So it was a clear penalty. Yeah.
I mean, I think what people don't get is that, whether we have this sort of reaction, or like whether we like it or not, that it's a penalty, maybe it shouldn't be, maybe the rule book should be changed, but it's in the rule book. It's not unclear. So all these people around Europe today saying, England got a lucky penalty. Well, I mean, the rule is there. If you make contact, it's basically contact. It's not even like you have to prevent them from scoring a goal. It's pretty clear that if you make any kind of hindering contact, that prevents the intent of the player. I mean, and that he made contact. I mean, it's just the way.
If he'd have been accelerating through central midfield or down the wing, and he got over in that way, they brought him down in that way, it would have been a free kick, clear free kick. Therefore, if it's in the area, it's penalty.
Yes.
End of story. 100% penalty.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, guys, you know what? If you don't like the rules, that's fine. I don't like some of the rules either. I think the non-contact nature of football has gone too far. But, don't start saying England were lucky. Penalties like that have been given all over the place in the league, all over the world. They're given like that. So I feel bad for the Danes that that it was unlucky and they played well, but these arguments are ridiculous. I mean, Carlos has explained it better than I can. So and then the penalty itself. I mean, it was so quick that you didn't have time to sort of the split millisecond or whatever of horror suddenly turned into, oh my God, relief and thank God. But oh God, for a moment there, Carlos, I was like, there was that split moment, wasn't there, where you're thinking, oh God.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't a well taken penalty. When you look at some of the ones that Harry Kane's taken in the past, it certainly wasn't up there with his best. I think it's probably the kindest thing you can say, and I don't think he'd disagree with that. No, but what was impressive, of course, was the way that he reacted straight away, especially against a keeper like Kasper Schmeichel, who is actually made and built for penalties, because his reactions, his anticipation are absolutely world class. I mean, if you're going to put somebody in goal to save a penalty, and you were betting money on it, you're probably going to bet on Kasper Schmeichel more than any other keeper in the world, I would guess, or very close. So yeah, Kane's reaction to put the rebound away was fantastic, and yeah, like I say, on balance, England were worthy winners.
I think so. I don't think anybody could say that England didn't deserve that, despite there's some people I've been getting messages from various places, including the States, that we didn't. I just think they're not in reality. I mean, the chances we created, that we controlled the game. We just didn't quite have, and this is a bit of a worry going forward, and we still have to enjoy it, of course. We didn't have perhaps enough of a killer instinct in the final third. We were creating so much around the box, but there weren't many, shots. I don't think there were any shots on target from outside the box, or maybe just one or two. And we seemed always to be trying to carve through them without being confident enough just to have a go, it seemed. And it's been a problem that was identified before the tournament a little bit. Are you a bit concerned that we weren't able to just, convert one of those more easily?
Yeah, I'm very concerned because all the games so far that we've had, I've not really felt nervous anyway about them. I've always been quite confident in our capabilities of getting a result in them, and I don't feel that way against Italy, mainly because, I think, alluding to the point you've just made there, is that we're probably not going to get many chances, and if we're not converting the percentage of them at that high level, we may only get 2 or 3 sights of the Italian goal, and we've got to make sure that we put one of those shots away, or at least one.
Yeah, I mean, it might take something, and we haven't seen a very special goal from one of our great players or whatever. It could be something that is being saved to the final. Just a quick word about that laser. I mean, what on earth did you make of it? I mean, I don't know, the laser and the extra ball. I mean, the extra ball was not, apparently, again, the rule book says if the extra ball is not interfering, then play can continue. How did you see that? I didn't really notice it that much. The laser.
I didn't read about the extra ball thing. I read briefly about the laser incident, but not in any great deal. But I did notice that the Danish officials, that they're not going to appeal or get UEFA to look into it any further. I don't think they particularly had an issue with it. I mean, I don't know. Did it affect Schmeichel at all at the time? Was there any intimation that he knew about it? Or
I don't think so. I think I've heard nothing from their side. I can't imagine that in all the sort of furor and the lights, that must have been in front of him, that was anything other than something for the cameras, really, that we spotted. But I don't know. I mean, there must be so much reflective light going on in that stadium that I don't think so. I mean, he saved it. It's not like,
you just wonder about the mentality of people doing things like that, don't you? I mean, it's just beyond stupidity, isn't it?
Bizarre.
Stupidity isn't a strong enough word for it.
No, it's not, and UEFA will fining them for it. And a word about this manager of ours then. I mean, he's just, what he's done, I mean, it's been a revolution, really, since he's come in. I mean, he's been fortunate to have this crop of players, but other managers have had really good players, maybe not as good as these, but certainly good enough to get further than we did. Again, I always say Eriksen, I think massively underachieved with those, but he just seems to be, now looking back, the right man at the right time for the right job. Has he made the impossible job possible?
Yeah, I mean, Terry Venables did as well. He made the impossible job possible too, and also
idolizes and considers his mentor.
Yeah, and Glenn Hoddle, to an extent, he did as well. So that there are several people who have made a allegedly impossible job look possible. But back to Gareth Southgate, I mean, yes, he has got a fantastic crop of brilliant young players, but that's only part of it. You've got to blend them. You've got to get them all buying into the same philosophy. You've got to get them all blending and working within this framework. I mean, what's impressive about it, a lot of what he does that I like, is the way that he uses the squad. He can just drop people in during games at the right time. Jack Grealish being perfect example last night. And he just drops into the team like he's been playing there for the last 50 internationals. And then when he realises then that we've got ahead, it's not really a Jack Grealish moment anymore. So he takes him off and just drops Kieran Trippier in and just alters the system slightly. Brilliant. That's what I find impressive. That is slick, especially when you only get those players for a few days at a time each year. That's clever.
He really has sort of managed to work within the limitations that are given to international managers. He's like just seems to have studied everything that needs to be studied about the job. And that was quite the audacity of these moves, and the audacity to say, I'm doing it my way. You know, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna leave maybe some people you might consider better players on the bench. And the double substitution of Grealish was just, I mean, I get it because obviously we were ahead then and he wanted to shore things up, but he's a very innovative international manager. I can imagine other international managers really having a look at the way that Southgate works, you know, and Steve Holland. And I don't think people are giving Steve Holland enough credit. He's this quiet presence there, but apparently, you know, Southgate is absolutely relies on him for counsel and for decisions. And I think if you see them together, they really are in heavy discussion. A remarkable manager and a remarkable man. I mean, just a thoroughly decent man, but I don't think anybody thought there's a real cutthroat manager who has a merciless streak in him and knows exactly how to win international football matches.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, he's shown that he's able to make those tough decisions that are unpopular at times, but are needed for the stage of games that we're in. You know, again, it's about game management, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. We'll be right back with Carlos. Don't move. We dreamed but never expected. It's happened. England have reached the final of Euro 2020. 55 painful years are over. Stay with Gadsby's England for the incredible climax of an incredible tournament with the dream final, Italy versus England at Wembley. Gadsby's England at Euro 2020, at England's Euro 2020 final. And we're back with the only man really who I could be back with at this point. Roberto Mancini is also an extremely wily, smart, streetwise, successful champion of a manager, brilliant player, perhaps the best manager that Southgate's going to come up against in this tournament. It'll be a real clash between those two as well as it will on the pitch, won't it?
Yeah, it will. I mean, he's done a fantastic job at blending a side out of what was pretty much a disastrous situation for them. I mean, you know, they didn't qualify for Russia 2018. A World Cup without Italy is unimaginable, isn't it? So they must have really hit an all-time low during that period of qualification not to make it. So to take them in 3 years to being, you know, contenders and in a final, doesn't happen by luck. It's a true great managerial feat. And when you watch the way that they play and the way that they, you know, they are clinical in terms of taking chances and finding ways to win. I mean, again, I thought Spain had the better of it against them the other night, but they ended up winning it. So, you know, you've got to respect that, and they are going to be a formidable opponent, to say the least.
Yeah, it is. It's the two best teams in the tournament, if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and in many ways, it's a little bit comparable to what happened with England, because we had our nadir, didn't we? Iceland in France, and I mean, who would have thought that 2 years later we would be in the semi-finals of a World Cup? And similar in the sense, Italy hit their rock bottom, which was not qualifying, as you said, unthinkable, a World Cup without Italy. So there's some parallels there, and two managers just getting the best out of young players. And it will be a really interesting matchup. Two really good tacticians, and it's hard. Again, it's going to be a rough one, you know. I mean, how do you see it? How do you see it going? I mean, what do you think are the the battles, the points where this game will be won and lost, and how much Wembley will play a part in that, because France hosted this tournament in 2016, lost in the final. Portugal hosted this tournament in 2004, lost in the final. This tournament is a graveyard of hosts. So, anybody who says, oh, England have got it lucky at Wembley, take a look at history.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Lee, where this game is going to be won and lost is on game management. It's about how we handle different situations. I'm sure Gareth Southgate and Steve Holland have gone through all the different scenarios. How do we manage the game? How do we change tactically if we get ahead? What do we do if we're deep into the 90 minutes and it's still 0-0? Importantly, they will also have discussed what do we do? How do we respond if we go behind to them? So they'll have looked at all of these different scenarios, and how we manage those situations is very, very important. And also then a word for the crowd, for the England support, who have been absolutely amazing. You can see how much the players and management, coaching staff appreciate it, because they really have given the players a lift when they've needed it. And what is very important, of course, is if we do go behind against Italy, that the patience remains, stick with the team and trust that they can manage their way out of this situation.
Absolutely. And the fact that Italy's defence has been breached now also means, that record is gone. So they will have, their own self-doubt, a little, I mean, not self-doubt, but they'll know that, people know that they can get behind them. Two remarkable central defenders, Chiellini and Bonucci, not so much on pace. Can Sterling, Saka, Grealish, the likes of them, give them trouble?
Well, I joked the other day that their defensive line is going to be on their 6-yard box. And I think when you see it, you'll probably see that I'm not exaggerating too much there, because they're not going to be able to allow any room whatsoever behind them. And that's where I think that Phil Foden and Jack Grealish are going to have such a big part to play in this game, because they're the type of players that can really unlock a deep line.
Interesting. All right. Well, I mean, I think I should let you enjoy it. But I just, just before you go, what comes back when we reached this yesterday? Were there particular times that came back? Because for me, I thought obviously the main ones, Euro 96, sort of looked out and thought, but it wasn't exactly the same place because the stadium has been, renovated. And I thought about Chris Waddle, and of course Chris Waddle was commentating. I thought about Stuart Pearce and all that, and then I just thought, I this is not that world anymore. But is there anything like a memory that you thought of, maybe standing somewhere and thinking you were happy or sad that brought out of you? I mean, so many obviously, but what memories have been brought up by this victory?
I think there was a couple of things, Lee. I thought a lot about that World Cup final in 1990. I always go on about it because that's kind of the benchmark in my spectating life, if you like. That's what I kind of measure everything against. And we were brilliant that night in Turin, but we didn't have enough to get over the line. And also in Euro 96, a similar situation where we were just so close, and you kind of put it down to misfortune and bad luck and what have you. But the biggest thing that stood out for me last night is that we've got something more than any of those teams had, and they had it in abundance, mental toughness, but this squad of players has got it even more. He's instilled within them a really deep-seated mental toughness and ability to react positively to and manage adversity and adverse situations. And that's where I'm most impressed, and that's what kept coming back to me. And the great thing about that, Lee, is it transmits itself. It exudes from the pitch, and the crowd feed on it, because rather than getting twitchy and nervous, the crowd feel confident. So it becomes confidence rather than nerves, and then that feeds on itself. So I think we've got a really good rapport between crowd and players.
Yeah, I don't know about you, mate. I was pretty nervous last night, but that's just a reflection of me. Yeah, that's a really good point. And you think about the mental side of things and the composure level that, as you say, Southgate has instilled into them is remarkable. Let's hope it continues on Sunday.
I hope so, Lee. Yeah, I mean, you know, this is the ultimate test, and I'm going to be honest with you. I can't call a win in these two sides because the margin is so fine. You know, and I think it probably will swing on something as simple as who scores first. Because whoever does manage to get in front, we've seen, well, certainly Italy, but you know, we've also seen with us, that we have the ability to close a game out, and so yeah, it could be simple as that. It could be as simple as a decision, a penalty, or it could be, it's who blinks first, isn't it? Almost, it's the longer and longer the game goes on, it starts getting to the stage who fancies penalties more. Because I noticed in Italy v Spain the other night, Italy were getting goal kicks with 7-8 minutes to go. They weren't rushing.
No interest.
They were happy to go all the way with penalties.
Yeah, and England still have the reputation, despite Colombia, of being beatable on penalties. Italy have beaten us on penalties before. I feel we owe Italy one. We've been beaten by them in Brazil. We had Ukraine. Certainly in Ukraine, they deserved to win that. The one in Manaus in Brazil, I think, was pretty even. I think England, there is perhaps that little bit of incentive that, we haven't beaten in Italy in a major tournament. I don't think. And it is the dream final, really, isn't it? It's the final that should be. It's the right final. And when you look at it, Carlos, a final, England versus Italy, it just has a magnitude about it, doesn't it? That there are very few matches. It's not the same as it would have been. No disrespect to Denmark, as Denmark, Italy, or even France, Portugal. It's just two powerhouses of football. One which has been a sleeping giant for so long, us, against one of the masters of the most successful European team, along with Germany, in tournaments. It just has a huge aura about it, doesn't it?
Of course it does. It's got a real global football resonance about it. Two teams with great history, pedigree. We haven't had the success that probably we should have. Whereas they have had the success. So yeah, I think it's about our moment. I'm trying not to dwell too much on them as a side, because I've always said in these situations it's all about controlling the controllables. We can't influence what Italy do. We can only manage it on the pitch. But what I haven't seen yet, although we have played well at times, if you think of gears, what gear have we hit so far? So if, let's say, this 5 gears, have we hit 3? Have we hit 4? I don't think we've hit 5th. And I think to myself, if we could be on the night the best we could possibly be, the best version of ourselves, if we could get the very most out of the team in that one performance, I don't care who you put in front of us, I think we'd be unstoppable.
We'll beat them. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think another on the flip side of that is there is some banter talk, and I wouldn't go too far with it, that Italy have receded a little bit in this tournament. They came out and seemed to be in 5th gear from the very start. They destroyed pretty much everybody. Okay, Wales gave them a pretty good game. But during the knockout stages, it hasn't been so easy for them. Austria took them all the way. Belgium, of course, that was their big hurdle. And then they lost their star player, Spinazzola, of course. And Spain, I thought, were unlucky not to go through. So Italy have seemed maybe to have gone down the gears rather than up through the gears a little bit. They haven't been as good as they were. I think they certainly weren't as good as they were against Belgium, against Spain. And I think they were brilliant in the group stages, but they struggled a little bit against Austria too. So, you know, I think you could argue if it's a perfect world for an England fan, you've got perhaps an England team that is constantly in the ascendancy, though you could argue, as of course, in Denmark, we might have gone down a gear as well. But I wonder if we've seen the top gear of Italy, where we may not have seen the top gear of England. But
I don't know. I know what you're saying. I mean, a lot of it is to do with opposition as well. Obviously, as you know, technically, the further you go into the tournament, the quality of the opposition, you know, gradually increases. So that will have, you know, disrupted their ability to impose themselves on games like they were doing earlier on. The other thing is as well is how the opposition manages Italy. I mean, you saw at times in the Spain game when in periods the game became very open. It became quite end to end, and that doesn't always suit Italy. Italy like a well managed, resilient, compact game. You know, an end-to-end 90 minutes, because it doesn't suit them, because they haven't got the defensive line for it. You know, that they don't want that line having to be drawn out, because that's where the gaps appear. Spain exploited it on a couple of occasions the other night, and sure enough, got their equaliser from it. So they don't want a big, wide open, entertaining end-to-end match for 90 minutes. It doesn't suit them.
They want to play at their tempo and their rhythm, and that is interesting.
Yeah,
perhaps if Spain had a little bit more firepower up front, we would be playing Spain now. I mean, that was the issue with Spain, wasn't it? So, you know,
I think that was what ultimately cost them in the end, wasn't it? That they didn't have the clinical finisher up top that could have taken a greater percentage of the chances. Had they done so, like you say, we'd be facing Spain in the final, I think.
Well, we have a certain Mr. Kane and Mr. Sterling who might be the difference for us, who can do that, but only time will tell. Let me say it again, Carlos. We're in the final of a major tournament for the first time for 55 years. How many times has that sentence been said today? But it does make you feel wonderful. If I had a bad day today, I can always remind myself of that incredible feat that I don't know if I saw coming, but we're there. So go out and enjoy these couple of days. I mean, Millsy said something the other night, didn't he? He said, you know, people don't enjoy the moment enough. They always think forward, and whether it's like trying to get tickets for the next game or thinking, oh, you know, I'm worried about this opposition. I think it was a really good sort of bit of advice, that, which is just go sit in a pub, sit down, enjoy yourself, just enjoy the moment, because you'll regret it in later, that, you know, there were these great moments and perhaps you thought you better look forward to the next thing and worry about the other thing. But my advice would be that advice, which is just enjoy this. You know, we've won. This is an achievement, and an enormous achievement that's happened from going out to Iceland in 2016 to 2021 in 5 years. What has happened is beyond, I think, everybody's wildest imagination. I just think it's incredible. So it is almost to the fairy tale point, but we'll see how it ends on Sunday. There'll be lots more from us before then. This is going to be some build up to, you know, that only probably is comparable in 1966. We're in unparalleled waters. The next 2 days in this country are just going to be incredible, and we'll try and bring as much of that to you as possible. Carlos, thank you as ever. You really were the only person who sort of has the gravitas and the emotional history to have been, you know, my first sort of final, you know, made the final guest. So I appreciate that, mate. And
welcome.
See you soon. Hopefully see you Sunday for sure, but we'll talk before that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Cheers.
All right, mate. Enjoy, and speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, that was great to get him. I don't think, as I said, it could have been anybody better. Hopefully, it was enjoyable for you too. What will be enjoyable are these words. Again, England are in the final of a major tournament for the first time in 55 years. Go out and smile and dance and be joyful. See you next time. We dreamed but never expected. It's happened. England have reached the final of Euro 2020. 55 painful years are over. Stay with Gadsby's England for the incredible climax of an incredible tournament with a dream final, Italy versus England at Wembley. Gadsby's England at Euro 2020, at England's Euro 2020 final.